The Empowerment Show aims to equip individuals with the necessary tools, knowledge, and confidence to make informed decisions and take control of their lives. It also focuses on ensuring access to essential resources and the opportunities.
Hello, happy Monday to everyone. Happy post-holiday Monday to everyone. I hope you all are rested. Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. My name is Hope, and our guest this evening is Jim Shupak. And if you saw on my post, I put Dr. Jim Shupak. I put doctor in big letters because, Jim has received his PhD, which is tremendous. Before we start talking to Jim, we're gonna discuss. Actually, Jim is really going to discuss his issues with his own personal issues with mental health and how that has led him to really become an advocate for others. Before we do that, as always, we are going to start with a positive affirmation with our guest. So, Jim, following the words "I am what, Jim?"
I would say, well, aside from saying the general, I am a mental health advocate. I am a Catholic who looks to provide hope for those who are suffering.
Okay. That's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. And as always, the topics we discuss here on Mental Health Mondays can lead to some sort of a trauma response or, questioning, issues with your own mental health. And you might want to reach out to a professional. 988 is our national mental health and suicide hotline. And we do scroll that at the bottom of the screen. So please, as always, make sure that you take care of you first and foremost. They say you can't pour from an empty cup. So always take care of you first and foremost. And, even though we get nice and comfortable when we have our conversations can be uncomfortable. So it's time. Let's get uncomfortable. So, Jim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I am doing great. Just came back from Elmira, New York, the Corning Glass Museum. My wife had wanted to go. As a person who thought it was just going to be a bunch of fancy glasses, it's a heck of a lot more than that. I am totally enamored by the place and a great respect for the people who do glass blowing professionally and even as an amateur.
Right.
I was like, wow, this is so cool. So yes, it's always nice to get away but there is no place like home.
No, that's true. That's true.
Said.
And there is a place down in the Lehigh Valley where you can actually take glass blowing classes.
That might be one of the next places people see
me at,
because
I'll
I certainly am inspired. I was like, wow. Yeah. But thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, the Jim Shupak I know is a teacher, is a coach, a husband, a dog dad, and someone who I then later learned was very outward and forward about his mental health struggles, which I am so touched by that and proud of you because, of all the stigmas, there are not enough people like you, who talk about their struggles with mental health. So the floor is yours. Tell us about Jim.
Well, I would say I've suffered from two major bouts with what's known as major depressive disorder. For those people who don't know what that is, it is clinically depressed. It's suffering from clinical depression, but at its worst.
Right.
I had suicidal thoughts endless suicidal thoughts. I didn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I remember going to sleep and essentially my constant prayer to God was, God, please take me or make me better. I don't care.
Yeah.
You decide. I am fine with whatever you decide. Well, as you can see, the decision, he has a plan for me.
Right. Absolutely.
And he has a plan for all of us, but it was like, he wanted me here. And, the first bout with depression, I didn't know how I felt, had a name. So to live within my mind for the 100 days, I call it 100 days of hell, because it's really indescribable unless you have felt that, itself. Because depression does, there's like a moderate depression. I don't want to call it minor depression, but it's not like when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, I was depressed.
Sure.
Okay.
And there's situational depression as well.
Right. But that was like a day or two, you get over it, you realize life goes on and it is what it is. But this was one that it wouldn't have mattered if the Eagles won this, which they did. Thank God. I'm happy as an Eagles fan. But I wouldn't have been able to snap out of it. That would not have permitted me to get past that.
Right.
Sorry,
I think what you just said was key, that you were unable to snap out of it, get yourself to snap out of it. I think that was really key, what you just said.
Sure. Like a lot of times that's what people will say, like, snap out of it. Or they'll say, oh, it's all in your head. And it's like, well, no crap. It's not my toe, and so I've learned to be also very protective of those people that I may not know who are going through depression, because for whatever reason, God chose me to be the spokesperson, the voice for the voiceless. And I guess I learned that from an individual, a saint in El Salvador that I met and I respect greatly, named Saint Oscar Romero. He was a voice for the voiceless, basically the impoverished of that country. Sure. And then when they had the Civil War, he unfortunately was killed. But he provided an inspiration for me, that it was like, if there are people struggling financially, mentally, it's your job. my calling. It's not a job, it's a calling.
Absolutely. I totally understand.
To speak out for them. And I believe the Holy Spirit, like I said, and I appreciate, trust me, a lot of people will tell me, you're very brave in this, and I appreciate it. Trust me, I am not trying to take anything, but I think that as it is my calling, I was provided with that bravery. If that makes any sense, like I don't, I'm not afraid to say, like, I speak about mental health the way we talk about the weather. Like, for example, I had my I go to therapy every week. I talk therapy every week, virtually. My therapist, Susan, is now on my Christmas card list because I've seen her every week, pretty much for 4 years. And I don't know what might be bothering me that might escalate to something.
Absolutely.
And the way I look at it is, once I say it out loud, it goes into the universe. Whatever God wants me to keep, I keep. But honestly, 95% of it just goes away. It's like I have peace of mind. And when I had depression, clinical depression, mind you, my mind would never stop. I would have thoughts of, like, you should kill yourself. You like, just take these pills, take that knife, crash the car. And people who know me know that I'm more or less like an impractical joker. I am not someone who would have those thoughts. So really taking that 180, I remember telling my primary care physician the first time that it felt like someone pushed that jovial, happy, easygoing me out and replaced it with someone miserable, dull, desperate, who essentially wanted to die. And that was like a 180. It just, it flip-flopped.
Was it something that happened over time? Because you know how sometimes things happen, and I always think of weight gain, because we gain weight over time and we don't notice it because it's a little at a time, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh my God. Was it something that happened over time, or was there something like immediate that made you feel that something's not right?
This is what I sum it up to in the two different bouts. So the first bout in 2001.
Let's focus on that one for right now, if we can. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was youth leader at my church, and I loved the job. Loved it. It was great. But we live close to New York City. If you don't earn money where you can survive, Well, I don't know. I was earning minimum wage, and I mean, I'm talking what kids today earn I would love to have earned. You know,
Right.
I was literally like 9.25 an hour, whatever. You know, I had insurance stuff, but that's just what they paid, and I was fine with it. And we did service trips and things like that. But my guess is I had reached a point where situationally, I thought by the age of 25, I would be married, I'd have kids, and I was 26, not married, no kids, no nothing, and there's no way I could survive on my own because of this, and that was a position I chose, but at the same time, that was my reality. And I remember it was February, and as you know, February in the Poconos, people who suffers from seasonal affective disorder,
Absolutely.
that just exacerbates what you might have. So this is just my thinking, is that's what it probably was. Plus the fact that when I was 13, I had a grand mal seizure, and there's no history of it in my family. So there already was like a chemical imbalance,
Right.
that had a pre-existing chemical imbalance. Then when I was 20-ish, and the doctor had weaned me off the medicine, I had 2 more seizures in a month. So he kind of said, well, I think we're going to stay on the medicine. But there already was a chemical imbalance. So you put that plus the we'll call it the dull weather of the Eastern Poconos, plus my situation of not really having, much, not really being able to survive on my, I live with my parents. My parents are very caring, very,
Right.
they did never gave me a hard time. It was like, no, you stay as long as you want, sort of thing. And, and that desire to have been married and have kids at 25, and it's like none of that had happened. And that's my guess. Like that was the only thing I could kind of pinpoint it to. But if you notice, it was a variety of different things.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just one thing. It was a number of different things at that point in time, that, in my opinion, caused it. And then I didn't know how I felt, had a name. So it was, to say that it was scary would be a massive understatement.
How did you describe, like when you decided to go to the doctor for this, how did you describe it to the doctor?
Well, let's see. Well, I remember it was like a Mission Impossible scene and I laugh at it now because she was the parent of youth group kids. So I emailed her, and I remember telling her, I need to see you, but I don't want to go through the front door because I was scared. I didn't know. So I was like, I didn't want to say, like, because I didn't know exactly what it was, but I thought it was depression, because by then a friend of mine who had depression, he's unfortunately since passed away. He had said, hey, you're exhibiting a lot of these symptoms. I remember printing them out. It's one of the happiest in my life. Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me. He's mentioned in my acknowledgments for my dissertation, because if he hadn't passed along that information, I don't want to think where I might be at this point in time in my life. So God bless you, Wendell. I appreciate you, man. So at that point, she was like, yeah, no problem. Like, so here I'm going in the back door, of the office. And I remember telling her, I was like, look, I think I have depression. A friend of mine told me I'm exhibiting these symptoms. I went on like 5 different websites, printed out all the symptoms, and all the symptoms are all the same. And I have every single symptom here. And and I told it, like, as I mentioned before, like, it feels like someone pushed, I'll call it like the soul of who I am, the spirit of who I am, like the jokester, the person who loves life, who, just wants to hang out with friends, who loves hanging out with his dog. But we had a dog named Sonny who helped save my life as well, and replace them with someone who's miserable, who hates life, who wants to die. And, so she, she looked at it. She gave me depression screening. I think she knew. I mean, I'm going to say she's a smart person. I'm sure she knew, but it's just more of a, I think, cover your own butt sort of thing.
Sure,
Like,
absolutely.
And so she's, I remember she said, yes, Jim, you have tested positive for depression, but Jim, I want you to know something. And I'll never forget this. And it resonated with me so much. She's, you're not the first person I've ever diagnosed with depression, and you definitely will not be the last.
That's great. That's great.
And
again, because such a stigma. So that was a wonderful thing for her to say.
It was like a weight just lifted. And I don't remember. I think I hugged her. I think she hugged me. I don't remember, because she could tell just how scared I was. Like, it wasn't, like she could, and so it was not, but at that point in time, she even said, well, Jim, I'm going to strongly advocate for you to take, an antidepressant so that we can, even things out in your mind. That's up to you, but I'm going to strongly suggest it. And she said, I'm also going to strongly suggest you go to therapy. So, because there's things that might be bothering you that you just don't know about. And until you talk them out, it's two sides of the coin that, you really should approach. And I did both. And within, I'd say, about 3 weeks, I was starting to feel, better. I even started to feel better maybe within 2 weeks, but
Sure.
I mean, really feel better within 3 to 4. Right. And at first with the therapy, I remember seeing, like, if you remember these old shows where you'd be laying on the recliner or on the sofa, and the therapist they're taking, and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, don't tell me this is going to happen. But I said, I'll do it. Yeah, that doesn't happen that way.
No, I know. I know.
So,
it's interesting though that they have so much that way. Now, which Poochie is this?
Right. This is Snitches.
Hey, Snitches, how you doing, buddy?
Snitches. He actually, he's. We call him Cranky Pants for a reason, but I guess he's affectionate now. So, yeah. Well, sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry at all. He
wants to be with the bald man, as we refer.
Well, that's all right. Listen, animals, I mean, they're great. They're great therapy. Yes. They're great therapy.
I call them in angels in fur. I
absolutely
really do.
Absolutely.
But I'm sorry about that. But
no,
with the therapy, she. The therapist I remember was in East Stroudsburg. I went to her for a couple months. I think it was weekly. But the first time I went, I remember crying. Like, you think of Niagara Falls. And it was just so, I hesitate to use the word, therapeutic. But it was so therapeutic that it was wonderful feeling. And then, she's, at that point, I'm like ready to make the next 10 appointments. I'm like, holy, I feel wonderful. And after literally being on the tightrope between life and death for 3 months, I call it 100 days in hell. I'm like, no, let's get it going, because now that I don't want to call it the enemy, but the what I was battling against had a name. That information was key, and it was like, now I know what to do. I've gone to see professionals about this, a social worker, my doctor, and thankfully I never really got involved in, actually I never got involved in drugs or alcohol, because I can see why certain people would want to mask their pain with that. I am not advocating it at all, but I can certainly see from where I was why someone would want to dull the pain with, and I mean, when I say drugs, I mean illegal drugs, the antidepressant that just, it cleared my mind.
Well, I mean, what the antidepressant does, it regulates the chemicals in your brain that are out of whack. Like you said, it's a chemical imbalance. And I think that's what people don't understand. Like the ones that are saying to you, oh, get over it.
Yep.
They don't understand that if those chemicals are unregulated, it's almost impossible to do that without some sort of assistance.
Exactly. And I would like to say too, like, about therapists and about the medicine. People say, well, I've tried therapy. It didn't work for me. Okay. How many therapists did you try? One. Okay. Well, I'm going to say something. Well, Have you ever tried dating before? Yes. Okay. It didn't work out with one person. Are you going to stop dating altogether? Okay. When you are going to see a therapist, you're not marrying this person. You just need to get along. If you see he or she is helping you, that's all you need. You don't need to put a ring on the finger. You just need to be able to, that's all it is. Now, I've been blessed and very fortunate where both times the first one worked for me. It's not going to be that way with everyone, but I need to make that point clear because, I tried therapy, didn't work. Okay, well, did you try dating? Yeah, didn't work for you. Okay, well, then you're not going to ever date again. Well, it's not,
I love that.
So that's the thing I like to liken it to. And with the antidepressants, I do want to tell people, like, you have to be honest with yourself because with some, it will make you, unfortunately, feel worse. And if you do notice suicidal ideations getting worse, this, that, make sure you get to your doctor or the ER ASAP, because then they will change your antidepressants. I was fortunate. I take Paxil. And again, that worked for me. My friend, Wendell, like I mentioned, he had taken Paxil and it made him worse.
Absolutely.
So he had gone to Wellbutrin, which is another one. But so I want to make that point clear too, because it's not like, okay, you take this and it's going to definitely make, you have to really be honest with yourself and your feelings and those people closest to you, because they're the ones who are going to notice the change. And that if you, like if you have those feelings of, taking your own life, let them know, like, it's like, okay, I need to go to the doctor or the ER because this medicine is not working for me. So
I'd like to say about medications, the same thing you said about therapists is that besides being honest, that first one may not work. I'm not even saying, having, more, suicidal ideations, but I'm just saying it might just not work. It might not do anything. So again, being honest, with yourself, with your doctors is really important because it could take a couple different medications. It's up to you as the individual to speak up to advocate for yourself.
I basically say you have to be your own superhero.
Absolutely.
That's the way I look. And I'm not saying, humbly, I say that because it's like, how you feel. Other people, they can see, you're not feeling yourself, you're not acting yourself, but you only know how you feel. So you have to be your own superhero. And that's really what it is, because you deserve to live your best life. And the only person who could really be accountable for you living your best life is you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let me ask, I know you said that you had, thoughts of suicide. Had you ever attempted to take your own life?
Never. No, never. I remember thinking about how I could do it.
Okay.
I do remember being on a highway in 2001, driving on Route 80 and thinking, wow, I could just going 60 miles an hour, just swerve the car. And I remember calling a friend of mine and just talking to the friend and, and just getting in a conversation, and it just focused me on getting home.
Right.
And that was it. But I never have, but it.
Well, what would you say to someone who was in that same place as you, who might be driving down 80 thinking the same thing? What would you say to them?
I would say, if you have to, first of all, I would say you deserve to live your best life. I'll preface that. It may not seem that it's possible at that time, but it is. I know you might be thinking, well, it's easy for you to. No, it's not easy for me. I have been there. I have thought that the tunnel would never end. But if you feel that bad, go to the closest hospital's ER.
Right.
Go to the closest like literally that time. Find where the closest hospital, or even call 988. Call even 911.
Absolutely.
And tell them, like, look, I am going out of my mind here. I've had suicidal, they are trained in this. They
Right.
realize what people have been going through. They will help you.
Right.
So that would be what I would say, especially someone who's going through that. Even go, for me, like I would, hospital, or if you can't find one, maybe find a church where you can find a pastor, a priest, and just tell them, and maybe they can help guide you. Like,
Sure.
They talk you through it. But at the same time, I want you to sit with me. We're going to call the hospital. Sorry about that. That snitches. Other cranky pants. But we're going to, or just sit with them and say, can you please call 911 or 911 for me? Or I guarantee any person, pastoral individual, will assist you in that. There might be people in an office who will. I can remember when I worked at my church, people would call and I would talk them through things.
Right.
This is what I had, so there are people there who will help. But yeah, I would, and just remember, like, there is an end to that tunnel. There, like that dark forest that you might think is never ending. There is an end to it. Right. And I mean a bright end to it, a beautiful end to it. You just, you have to advocate for yourself. And I know you might have very little energy for which to survive, but take that energy and, again, be your own superhero.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask for help. It's okay. What's the saying go? It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. And just get the help that you need. But hospitals would be, the first place I would say, but if you are like really on edge and you happen to see a church or something first, or whatever, a synagogue, and a place of worship, it doesn't matter. Just go and talk to and ask them for help, for support.
And, we advocate here on the show. Obviously, 911 is great. Hospitals, absolutely 100%. But we do advocate the 988 number, which we always run at the bottom of the screen. Yeah. But you have also shared your contact information. And I just want to let people know that this does not negate, reaching out for emergency help.
Oh, yeah.
But, Jim has shared his contact information, his email address and his website that, if anyone wants to stay in touch with him, get in touch with him, because he truly, this truly, I shouldn't say he feels this is his calling. This truly is his calling. And, he wants to advocate or help as many people as possible. And Jim, I have to tell you that on my Facebook, I had a cancellation last week, 2 weeks ago. I posted it on my Facebook that if anybody could be on the show. And, I had students and other teachers of the school district, reaching out to me, former students reaching out to me saying, I think Mr. Shupak should be on your show. So,
that was nice.
So clearly you are making an impact on the lives of other people. And that's tremendous. And that makes my hair stand up on my arms and give me goosebumps. But I do want to talk about your second bout. But let's talk about, so when did the running, when did the concept, the idea of the 100 marathons, which you're at what, 24, 21?
21.
So 100 marathons to represent the 100 days of hell, as you call them. When did that come about? When did you start that?
Okay. So I have to start with Sonny, our old golden retriever, who, God bless him. Dogs have a sixth sense, and they say that they know when they're I don't want to call them owners, because I don't feel like I own the dogs. I feel like they own me.
True.
But I will say their posse, if you will, their family. But he knew I wasn't doing well. I would be laying in bed. I would be laying on my sofa in my parents' room. And what would happen is I would fall asleep, or I would just close my eyes, and then every once in a while, I would feel this breathing next to me, and it was like, when I tell you, it's like about that far away. So his nose would be like right up against mine, and I would look at him, and I remember, what do you need, Sonny? And it was almost like he was kind of saying to me, I need to take you for a walk but
Right.
I need you to put the leash on me.
Right.
And so we had this understanding. So Sonny and I would go out for walks, and later I would find out that walking was good for you and exercise was good for you. Like, so I would take him around for like a block or whatever, blah, blah. And then as I felt better, a block became 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. And then before you know it, I'm like, I want to go further, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Sonny could have taken it, but I'm just going to leave it home. And so then I started to like walk a mile, jog a mile. Really, I don't run. I'm too slow to run. I
walk.
Yeah. But I my motto is arrive alive, and I've been pretty successful.
That's great.
But then at that point, I started to jog and was like, go for the first block. You're going to jog. Then the next block, you're going to walk. And then the next block, you're going to, and then it became a mile. And then I did a 5K and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And the running community is so incredibly supportive.
Yes.
So, like, I'm a soccer coach, soccer player, but it's us against them. The running community, you have like the first 10 people who are trying to win the race, and then there's everybody else.
Right.
And it's like I remember doing the 5K and I finished and I was like, this is really awesome. These people are great. And it was, other runners, there were supportive people on the side, and it was just such a welcoming community. And I mean, I give props to all runners, the runners community, or in my case, the walkers community. Like I tell people that my nickname when I run is Thunder. They're like, how'd you get that? I said, I'm too darn slow to be called Lightning. So, but really, but so then at that point, and I'm going to say, do as I say, not as I do with the next thing. I have overcome the depression. I was like, I really started to love getting out and walking and running. And so what would happen, sorry about that, Cranky Pants is, it's like my Ivan Drago over here, I think. But so I was like, you know what? I'm going to run a marathon. Now, this is not normal behavior, my friends. This is not how it usually goes 5K, 10K, half, then full. Okay.
Right.
Or maybe do like a 15K somewhere in there, which is about 10 miles-ish. Well, so I went from a 5K and then, because it was almost like a completion or a fulfillment of look what you can do because you overcame depression. It was almost like, in part of my French, this was my FU to depression.
Right.
This was my, and I apologize for, but like, this was my like, no, I am going to do this. I am going to finish it. And so I trained, and I did the Steamtown Marathon, and I had a bunch of people supporting me throughout. Like a bunch of friends came up, all over, and they had these inspirational notes with them, like, but I won't lie, I was pretty darn close to doing number 2 at the starting line. I was like, because when reality sets in, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this.
I'm about to run 26
movie.
miles.
This is real. And I did watch the Rocky movie the night before, and he, like, I'm in the, I'm not married at the time. I'm in a hotel right near the start, and I'm like watching the Rocky movie, and I'm getting in the zone, and I have the music. But I got to the start, and I'm like, oh, there's no backing out now, kids. Like, so, but once you start, and again, I give the running community, and Steamtown was awesome. The running community, the support they have up there, and really all the marathons I've done, but especially Steamtown, there's nothing like it. Like, right. I mean, if you go to a big city one, like Philadelphia, when I did that one, that was me. But there's something about that when they take such pride into it, and it doesn't matter if you're the first person or, where I was, toward the last person, they will stay there. They will wait for you. Give me 5, way to go, or they'll have signs, remember, you paid for this, stuff like that. And, but it was, when I finished, like, I remember crying, like, as I got closer. And right when you get close to Cooper's, which is right when you go up the hill, and I remember it was just like, I just get a little emotional thinking about it, because it's like, it was like, holy crap, dude, you did it.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, you like, this is real. Now, at the same time, lactic acid, set in, and I wasn't doing much running for about the week after. I'm not going to lie, because I didn't know what lactic acid truly was until that first time. Now, but it was mentally, I was like, I can't even put I don't even know, like, I don't even want to say it felt like $1 million, because that would be making it less than how I felt.
Right.
Like, I felt priceless. I felt like, holy crap, I did it. I did, and it wasn't like just I did it, because it was more like a we did it sort of thing, because the people who supported me to get through the depression, who
Right.
supported me with the running, like, it was also for them.
Right.
And it was just such an amazing feeling. Oh my God. Like, just thinking about it now, it just, whew, but just the running community up there, the support was fantastic. And I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Right.
And I think maybe after the pain went away about 2 weeks later, I was like, that was great. You know what? I'm going to do it again.
Right.
And so, yeah, but it's just such a wonderful, for me, endeavor. But again, like, some people want to run one marathon in their lifetime, and that's fine. Good for you, because you're in the top 1 or 2% of people who have ever completed a marathon.
Right.
It was like every marathon I did helped to figuratively get back a day that I had suffered, when how I felt I didn't know how to name. So for me, it was like, we've just started. This is just the beginning,
Right.
And so we're up to 21 now. When about 10 years ago, I did 4 in 4 months.
Right.
And
you were on the news.
Yes.
You were on the news. And,
yeah.
And that's when I knew you from school, from working at Pleasant Valley,
Sure.
where I also work as a coach. So, and then I saw that on the news, but you even then immediately used it as a way to speak out about mental health. Like, immediately, there was no doubt in anyone's mind why you were running these marathons.
Sure. No, like, I just say, like, how would I put it? There's a saying, when man or woman plans, God laughs. My goal was to be an announcer in soccer. That's what I wanted to do when I was growing up. And did I get to do it here and there? Yes. But at the same time, that's not what my calling was. My calling was different. Like, maybe, and I was a communication study major at ESU, undergrad, and then got my master's degree in sport management, and almost a second one in secondary ed. But there was a different plan for me. Like, I kind of say, like, the Holy Spirit wanted this. Hey, I'm giving you the strength, man. This is what you need to do. And I just fell into it, and I kept going, and I humbly say this, where I've had people come up to me and say, you talking about it has helped me have the courage to speak to my parents.
Absolutely.
Or you speaking about it helped my brother or so-and-so speak about it, and it saved his life because he was contemplating suicide.
Right.
And like, for me, like, I was just doing what I was taught is right. I don't really see it as that's the way my parents raised me. And I'm like, again, like, I go back to Oscar, a voice for the voiceless.
Right. And you have, referred to that several times, and your faith, and you do feel that your faith, your Catholic faith really, really guided you and really helped you get through this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Like, I just started talking about this part recently. But I will tell you, during the first bout with depression, when I was saying, I said, God, either take me or help me, cure me, whatever that means. like I even had an out of body experience. So I don't know if I ever told you about this.
No, I didn't.
I'll never forget it. I was laying on the sofa in my parents' living room, and the one night out of my body, I could look down, I could see myself, and in the corner of my parents' house, I saw the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Jesus was a baby, and I just, it was, nothing was said, but it was
Right.
it was like, we hear you, and
Yes.
you're going to be okay. Like there was
You're
nothing
giving me goosebumps.
that was the feeling I had. And
Right.
I knew that I had the fear of God at that moment, because once I came back in my body, if I had my whatever, the heart rate on my phone, if I had one of those, it would have gotten to 250
Right.
beats per minute. I was like, what just happened? And I remember going to bed, and I swear, I mean, I must have found every stuffed animal that was like hidden away, and because it was like, oh my God, like, but at that moment, not long after that, that's when Wendell told me. That's when I went to. So it was almost like, and I'm not worthy of that. I'm not worthy. But for whatever reason, I think that was their way of saying, man, we're getting tired of hearing this. We got you, man. Now, I don't know if they're getting tired, but
No, not at all. And not everybody has an experience like that. I mean, and when you do, to recognize it and to take it forward. And I know that we've only really talked about, your first bout, and you know that we've been talking for almost 45 minutes.
No, I didn't.
I know, right?
No,
it's great.
You need hope, so you.
No, but isn't that great? I mean, it just goes like when I did a program on my own situation, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even think I'm going to be able to talk for half an hour about it. And there's so much that you want to say. And I know that there's so much I want to continue with you, but unfortunately we're getting out of time. Okay. Can we have you back in a couple of weeks? Because I do want to talk about your second bout, because it's not always a once and done thing. And there were definitely circumstances that, that brought you to that. And I feel that needs attention. And I don't want to, make that seem, minor in all of this, but I want to give it as much time as we can, because, what we've talked about so far tonight has been absolutely amazing. And you've given me goosebumps several times. And as someone who is in the mental health field, as someone who also has the diagnosis of MDD with very much functional depression, we need more people like you. We need more people. Because as much as I just said that right now, it's not something that I discuss on the regular, because I work in the field. So you have to balance that out differently. So we need more of you, Jim, and we need more of you on the show, but we need you to continue reaching out to people and advocate. And I know we have about a minute left. Is there just anything? I know you want the book real quick. We have your email, we have your website. Tell us just real quick about the book, and then we'll definitely pick up on that next time.
The book is basically my goal is to help people suffering with depression, just so they, with a faith-based, compassionate care and some practical thing, practical ideas, so that they can live their true, authentic life.
Right. Have you titled it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I know we talked about that a while ago. Yeah, titles are tough.
I know the title will hit me when I'm least expecting it.
Or I agree.
If I'm fortunately able to get an agent, they will maybe give me ideas. I don't know. If not, and I self-publish it, then we'll see what happens. But I do want to tell, anyone watching, people watching, just remember that you are worth the help that you need to live your authentic self. Remember, if you're going through any type of depression, any type of mental illness, that your diagnosis does not define you.
Absolutely.
You are worth the help that you need. You are valued. You are loved. You are cared for. if, no matter what your situation is, there is somebody out there that would miss you if you left this earth.
Okay.
And like there are, and probably numerous people, and or your dogs, your cats, whatever. But
we get sad. We get sad. We, meaning people who are, understanding.
Yeah.
We get sad. I can't see it. So,
but yeah, and
we're gonna get you back on here. We have your contact information on the bottom.
Yes.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, I love you, my friend. I appreciate you. And I'm so proud of you. So proud.
And I'm proud of you. I appreciate what you're doing here because it gives an outlet that's definitely well necessary, well needed for people to realize that they're not alone.
Absolutely. We'll get you back on here maybe in August. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. I'll be in touch. Thank you, Jim. Dr. Jim Shupak, Dr. Jim Shupak, running against depression. We'll be in touch with him again soon. Thanks for joining us on Mental Health Mondays. My name is Hope. We'll see you next week.